Hey YouTube, Audio Olympian here, back with another video coming to you from the Coliseum. Today's video, we're going to be talking about the Goldenear Supersub X and try to answer the question, is this a giant killer? If this is your first time visiting our channel, we want to welcome you. Thanks for stopping by. We'd appreciate it if you could help support this channel by hitting that like button. And don't forget, you can also follow us on Instagram at Audio Olympian. So today's video is going to be a little longer of a review than my normal videos. I usually like to try to keep my videos anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes, just so that it's not taking up a lot of time for you guys, and I try to pack in as much info as I can. However, I got some good stories on this and why I picked this one up and the performance of it and some good details here I really wanted to highlight. So just to forewarn you, this video is going to be a little longer than my normal reviews. Okay, now I've shot this video several times. This is my third take on it. Each time I've done it, haven't been in the best settings and surrounding, been kind of rushed on time, so I always forget something. So I wanted to come back and make sure I get everything in there cleared up for a lot of people here. This is my own purchase. I'm not sponsored by Goldenear or anything like that, but I am a big fan of theirs, been following them and been using their products ever since they came out back in 2010. I like Sandy Gross's model, who was the former owner of Goldenear, and that was, we make high-end affordable. Now, we would all love to have those immaculate systems, but not all of us can afford to have $20,000 amplifiers, $15,000, $10,000 DACs, preamps, and then $60,000 speakers. Those are really cool to be able to watch videos of people that can have that stuff, but for the average person, we got to stick within our budget. Okay, so getting into, is this a giant killer? That's something we're going to tackle a little bit later. But for those of us that that want to know my opinion right away, I'm going to give you the answer right up front, and I'll explain why a little bit later. Is this a giant killer? My opinion, no, it isn't. However, you could argue all day long on, do giant killers really exist? Because so many different products and different price points. Right, so they're all different. Everything is different. I don't know of two companies that make the exact same thing. It's always going to be a little different in terms of quality build, materials used, size of cabinets, size of cones, power output, impedance, right? There's always going to be something a little different. Because what would be the sense of making something exactly the same, right? You got to make something a little bit different to draw attention to it. So this here, Supersub X, is a 1400 watt sub. Now, to get into a little bit of what it is, you can see the screens here on the side, or these grills. It has two active 8-inch drivers on each side here. And then it has the passive radiators on the top, and there's a passive radiator underneath on the bottom here. Now, if you're not sure what a passive radiator is for, it allows for more airflow to move through smaller cabinets like this. I believe one of the original subwoofer designs was Bob Carver's Sunfire True Subs that had the passive radiator and an active cone on the other side. And that was kind of a game changer as far as mini subs back then. And that was maybe late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in there. So what prompted me to purchase this sub here? Being that I had all the other Goldenear subwoofers, and I have the big brother, the Supersub XXL. Well, back a few months ago when SVS came out with the Micro 3000, which was two active 8-inch cones, 800 watt amplifier with peaks up to 2500 watts. I've always really liked small compact subs because I'm always just still, when I listen to them and I have them, amazed on how much power can come out of a small box, and it just baffles me that engineers are able to figure that out and how to make it sound good and very musical, tight, with a lot of power in it. I can't imagine it being a very easy task to do, so it's going to take some time, work, and some passion. Somebody's really going to want to do that. So when that one came out, I considered that one highly. So as I was listening or watching videos, doing some research about the SVS Micro, came across the Kef. And I forget which model that one was, but it was very similar to the Micro. It has dual active drivers in a small cabinet, high output. And I started doing some research back and forth between those, and I quickly pushed out the Kef. Not because it wasn't a great performer or I felt that it was maybe less than the SVS Micro, but the cones are smaller. I believe it's a 6-inch or 6.5-inch cone, somewhere around there. The cost of it, a lot more higher in my out of my budget than what I wanted to spend for a new subwoofer. So I started looking really, really closely at the Micro. Then I came back to the Goldenear Supersub X. Now, one of the main reasons, again, that this was kind of in the background, I've always been interested in it. Plus, I have the older brother of this one, the XXL. So I wasn't in a rush to really get this one. I knew it was going to be kind of the same, but maybe a little less, right? The main thing that kind of pushed me away from it, again, was the price. I didn't want to spend that much on a subwoofer at the time. So I was really, really leaning forward towards the SVS Micro. And I actually put one in a cart, almost purchased it. Then I had a thought, what if I go to my local store here and I can trade in my Goldenear Forcefield 5 towards the Supersub X here. So I went to them, we talked about a trade-in and situation. They gave me a great price on it. So here's why I ended up grabbing this. The design of this here is very unique, in which it has 4 output areas on the cabinet here. 2 active 8-inch drivers, which is just like the SVS Micro. However, this has 2 passive radiators on the top and the bottom, which if you're not familiar with the passive radiator, go put that down in the comment and I'll be happy to explain that and tell you a little bit more about them. But what that does, it basically allows more air to move in the cabinet for a smaller cabinet. So that is going to allow more depth, more output, more excursion, and a lot less cabinet vibration. It's going to allow the air to move, which is going to give you deeper, better performance, tighter bass, which at least it should if the design is done right. So that was the 2 biggest differences why I really liked this one over the SVS Micros, just 2 active drivers. So 2 active drivers here and then 2 passive radiators top and the bottom. The second thing is the power output. 1400 watt Class D amplifier. SVS Micro has, I believe it is a 800 watt with peaks up to 2500, somewhere around there. So I'm not sure what the peak output is on this one. Because of the 4 areas that you get on excursion and output, it is so room filling. Whereas your front firing subwoofers are still going to be more directional. I do have the SVS PB16, and that's just a single front firing driver. And that thing just pounds you in the chest. I mean, I've watched some movies in my theater room, and that just massages my pancreas and tickles my spine, right? If I'm directly in front of it. If I'm off-centered a little bit, you still get the feeling, don't get me wrong, it's still going to fill your room with great bass, but it's not the same as if you're directly in front of it. Whereas these monsters here, you get that same feeling anywhere in the room, total room filling. So that made me decide to take up the Goldenear Supersub X. Okay, a couple of things I wish these did have. One, I wish they had an XLR input. That's just going to give you a little bit more of a sturdier signal that goes to your subwoofers. SVS do have those. They have the XLR inputs on most of their subwoofers. I don't know if they have it on all of them. I haven't looked at all of them, but I know most of their higher end model lines, they do have an XLR input. And so do the REL subwoofers on most of their high end lines there. They have XLR input. So being that these are the flagship for Goldenear, I do wish they would have had an XLR input. The second thing I wish it would have had was an output from this so that you can hook up multiple subwoofers. Both SVS and REL do have those additional outputs, so you can kind of daisy chain or, you know, link up other subwoofers from that one. I'm not a big fan of using Y splitters from my receiver. Anytime you're adding more cables, more connections, splitters, all that stuff, is more of a chance for you to start getting interference into your system there. And this might just be me personally, but anytime I've ever used a Y splitter on a receiver, amplifier, preamp, whatever it is, I always felt the sub signal was a little bit less quality, a little lower. Even though I had 2 subs running in there, can smooth out my bass, but I felt the division of the signal, you didn't get as strong a good quality going to each sub. That's just my personal thing. You may have experienced that, maybe not. So I'm not a big fan of Y splitters. I would rather have direct links right into amplifiers, receivers, or preamps that are designed to transfer the signal over. The next thing I wish, and this is just kind of a small little wish, and maybe this might be something that could happen in the future, different colors, different options. I'm more of a red guy. I really do like the red color. So if this thing came in like a Corvette cherry red or something like that, to me it would just be miraculous. Or even black with some red trim, or red with black trim. I think that would be amazing looking type speaker. I like the line of the design here of the Goldenear high-end lines with that piano gloss look. So they're like sculptures in my house. So I wish that they would have had some different colors here. That could be something more in the future. Okay, so the reason I feel it's not a giant killer, the biggest reason is the price. I believe when it came out, it was only $1,200. It was like $11.99 when it originally came out a few years back. I believe the price now has went up to $13.99. I think that's what it is there at the time of this video. And they have shifted over to AudioQuest. So I'm not sure what AudioQuest is ideas for the future here for Goldenear, but that doesn't necessarily change the product line and the design of those. They're all still the same. It's just under the ownership of AudioQuest. We're looking for performing above its weight class and the pricing below its weight class for a giant killer. And I think that's what knocks it out of the category for me as a giant killer. Does it perform above its weight class? Absolutely. I could not find a good spot in my theater that didn't flutter my microphone when I was trying to do some clips here. It is that room filling. I got a couple of clips here at the end I'm going to show you if you're interested in just hearing that. I can't stand that sound in the microphone, but I'm going to put it there just to show you that even this little Titan right here, this little monster, it was so room filling. Now, it does not punch you in the chest like the SVS or the big brother, this one, the XXL. I do like how it is invisible in the room. So because it's small size, you can put it in any room, place it, and kind of forget it until you're hitting some mean bass in a movie, music, TV show, whatever it is, right? It does perform very well for that. I wasn't able to get this to bottom out, and I did have it punching and pushing pretty hard. Now, on the side note of that, with the XXL, I've not been able to bottom that one out as well either. That was a good bonus there. Okay, lastly, how did it compare to the XXL? That was one of the things a lot of people were talking about. Well, I will tell you this here. You would not be disappointed if you purchased this instead of the XXL, especially if this is more in your price range. I want to say the bass might be slightly tighter, smaller cone, slightly faster than the XXL. And I'm talking microseconds here, not anything major. And maybe not even anything you might notice right away. I only noticed those little differences when I played music. In movies, it was almost exactly the same, but the XXL was punching you a lot harder. You could feel that more. Depending on your room size, this is where you can kind of level the playing ground with this and its bigger brother. If you have a smaller room, the XXL might be a little difficult to place. It might be a little fussy because that is going to fill and punch so hard and so good. If you don't have a really good rectangular room, if you got a square room, that might not be a good option for you. If you got a lower ceiling, that may not be a good option for you, for the XXL anyway. That's where this thing is going to shine over that. Having this in a smaller room, maybe an odd shaped room, lower ceiling, but if you happen to have a square room, this thing is going to perform pretty good in there. Now you will have to mess around with the placement of these. I am finding that the Goldenear subwoofers, almost all of their line except for the Force Field 4, all of them are going to be a little fussy in placement. The Force, I've done my video before, I did mention in the Force Field subwoofers, I wouldn't directly put those in a corner. I would set them out a little bit more if you got the room and the space for that. These are going to be exactly the same way. Wouldn't necessarily put them in a corner. If you can bring it out in a little bit more middle of the room, if you have the space, if you have the room, that's where it's going to have its best performance for you. These I can recommend with any speaker. If you have any other speaker line, if you're running clip speakers, if you're running Polk speakers, if you're running Tecton, anything like that, any other speaker, these are going to blend very, very well with any of those speaker lines. Okay guys, so there you have it. That's about all I have on this one. So yes, if you got a smaller room and it's not perfect or ideal shaped, this thing is going to rock the house in that room for you. But again, you're going to have to play with your placement of it. That's kind of the fun. That's also one of the good bonus benefits of this cabinet being small, and it's hefty, it's durable. You can feel that it's got some good weight to it, but it's not hard to move around. You can move this all over with pretty good ease. I like that. The older brother, the XXL, not so much. You're going to have to be able to deadlift some pretty good weight if you're going to be moving that thing around. But smaller room, this is the one that's going to perform good. Bigger room, it's still going to perform just as well. Just not going to punch you the way that the XXL does. If you got the bigger room, go for the XXL. And if it's in your budget, I would take that. But again, these are not, I would really recommend not putting these in corners. You're going to need them out in the room somewhere and play around with it. You're going to have some fun doing that because these subs are going to kick butt and fill whatever space you have. All right, so that's all I got there for you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.